Hey guys, today we got a special treat. We're taking a look at the Assassin's Creed Shadows trailer from Ubisoft, and we're gonna see what kind of historical information we can find. Here we see themes of unification, which is probably gonna play a role in the story of the game. For a lot of Japan's early history, the island really wasn't unified politically, but divided amongst warring clans and a kind of shifting landscape of warlords, samurai, and peasants caught up in the middle. It really wasn't until the late 16th century that efforts to unify the nation started, and that will eventually lead to the unification under the Tokugawa shogunate, which was from 1603 till 1867. Here we see a number of European ships pulling into a busy trading port, most likely Nagasaki. On the sails of one of the vessels is the Cross of the Order of Christ. That was a successor organization to the Knights Templar, which ended in 1312. Could these be the Templars, the main antagonists? Thank you to Ubisoft for sponsoring this video. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to arrive in Japan, starting in about 1543, and they set up a lucrative trade arrangement with the Japanese. They would sometimes act as intermediaries, since the Emperor of China banned trade with Japan pretty much because of Japanese pirates. They really like to trade in silks and porcelain, tea, and other goods from China, in exchange for silver, of course. The Portuguese also brought Jesuits, who sort of introduced Christianity to the country, and they also brought with them gunpowder and firearms, which were quickly used by the warring clans of Japan. And they'd played a huge role in the unification wars that would just engulf the country. There were growing concerns, though, over the influence of these foreigners, which in the end would cause what is known as the Sakoku, or the isolationist period of Japan, where Christianity would be suppressed and foreigners would be heavily restricted until about the 19th century. Here we can see who's presumably Oda Nobunaga, the giveaway being the kimono, that stylized quince. That was the emblem of the Oda clan. He would play a major role in the unification wars in the latter part of the 16th century and could no doubt be a major character in the game. This is Yasuke, an African man who made his way into the court of Oda Nobunaga, and probably the second protagonist in the game. Very little is known of Yasuke, his origins or his fate. He was most likely born in what is now Mozambique, but the date's unknown, as is his actual name, his family relations, native language, or pretty much anything else about him. He got to Japan in 1579 as the servant of a Jesuit, and he would catch the attention of Oda Nobunaga, who made him a retainer of his household in 1581. After Oda's death in 1582, he was sent back to the Jesuits, where he disappeared from the historical record. At over 6 feet tall and pretty strong, Yasuke impressed Oda Nobunaga, who made him a member of the court, and there were rumors that he was even elevated to the rank of samurai, but there's little evidence to confirm this, though the lack of details about his life are fertile ground for speculation and, of course, video game protagonists. Now we get to see those Portuguese muskets in action. This is an army of the Oda clan making use of the ashigaru, or peasant conscripts. Now, presumably this is the Battle of Nagashino, which happened in 1575. In that battle, massed volleys of muskets devastated the enemy's cavalry and ensured victory for Oda Nobunaga. Ashigaru, which means light of foot, made up the backbone of feudal Japanese armies, filling out the ranks with numbers to supplement the more heavily armed and better trained samurai, acting almost exclusively as an infantry force. The members would primarily be made up of farmers, drawn from their daimyo's lands and pressed into service as warriors in the conflicts that raged across Japan. They used a variety of weapons like spears, swords, bows, and later on, muskets. Initially, they were seen as unruly conscripts from their inception in the 14th century, but by the time of the Sengoku period, they were way more disciplined and effective. Some of the ashigaru gained enough prominence and distinction to be elevated into the samurai class. The matchlock musket. This is known as the Tanagashima, and it was an effective weapon in the right hands, particularly in massed volleys. They did have some downsides, however. They were generally inaccurate at significant range and were somewhat unreliable, especially in damp or rainy conditions. If the gunpowder got wet, they, as well as the cannons that the samurai used, would be rendered pretty useless. Now, in this scene we see another protagonist, Naoe, acting as a ninja or shinobi. She's wearing civilian clothing and not the all-black suit that many depictions of shinobi tend to wear. In fact, ninja did exist, and They would take on secretive assignments like espionage, intelligence gathering, and of course everyone's favorite, assassination. They would not, however, wear any distinctive types of clothing, since that would immediately draw attention, which is counterintuitive for a spy. Rather, they'd wear normal civilian clothing, like that of a farmer, a merchant, beggar, monk, or anyone else that would avoid attention. The image of the black-clad ninja does have its origins in kabuki theater. Stagehands would dress in all black, helping to move props around and arrange scenery as needed, and the audience would just simply ignore them out of convention. Now, clever playwrights would have the insidious shinobi dress and act like one of those stagehands, and then spring out to attack one of the actors, and it would shock the audience. And this is what then grew in popular culture. In this scene, Naoi is infiltrating an enemy castle under the cover of darkness. She's dressed in dark blue, which is a way more beneficial color for this type of operation. Black is actually not that inconspicuous at night, since it can be too dark, causing the wearer to stand out. Dark blue or indigo actually blends in much more effectively, especially under moonlight. To help her scale the walls, Naoi is using a Kagi-nawa, which is a grappling hook with an attached rope that shinobi could use to overcome those types of defenses. These were usually a single hook and they were shaped like a U. There was another version called an Akarikagi, which had 4 hooks and had a greater chance of actually anchoring itself to the wall. And here, Naoi is using a shuriken, a classic weapon of the shinobi. There's many different forms, including the bow shuriken, which are elongated pointed sticks, and hira shuriken, which are disc-shaped and can be square or star-shaped, among many others. They were primarily used as a distraction, though, allowing the thrower to escape or to close the distance and finish off a target. The shuriken can also be coated with poison for added effect, and no doubt's probably going to be a major mechanic for gameplay. Shinobi would fight using a system known as ninjutsu, which included armed and unarmed fighting, infiltration and stealth, the use of poison, as well as engineering, geometry, meteorology, and many other subjects. They also followed a very strict diet. Ninja would often avoid foods that had a pungent scent, such as garlic and onions, since that smell could tip off a target of their approach. And in order to maximize their stealth and performance, they would eat light, easily digested foods to maintain the agility. Their diet would pretty much consist of rice, millet, and other grains, as well as vegetables that had limited smell. And they also avoided overconsumption of meat, since eating large quantities could affect your body odor, though most Japanese during that era ate little in the way of red meat for cultural reasons. And we find ourselves back at the beginning of the trailer, and given what we've seen, this may be our protagonist, taking revenge on Akechi Mitsuhide, a general who betrayed Oda Nobunaga, leading to his death. Now, historically, Akechi was killed by a bandit leader, but perhaps that role's being taken on by the protagonist. I'm sure the Assassin Order and the Templars are involved in some way. How exactly remains to be seen, and I guess we'll just have to give a game a playthrough to find out. Oh, and what Assassin's Creed game would be complete without that wrist-mounted hidden blade? It's not exactly historical, but it's now just an obligatory fixture of the series. Watch the Assassin's Creed Shadows trailer and pre-order the game now. Step into the captivating and ever-changing world of feudal Japan. This is a time of unification, a fascinating period that brings us face-to-face with the legendary historical figures such as Oda Nobunaga and Akechi Mitsuhide. The development team has put authenticity at the heart of this game, involving external experts, historians, and consultants, as well as internal co-workers from Ubisoft Osaka and Tokyo. You're gonna become a shinobi assassin and a legendary samurai. Yasuke and Naoi offer completely different gameplay experiences and perspectives on this troubled period in Japan. Ubisoft Quebec and the dev team behind this major opus brings their experience and the support of the Code Dev Studio to deliver an engaging and memorable experience. Available on Xbox and PlayStation 5. Pre-order the game in the link below.